Do you ever find yourself in a place where you're like, golly, what can I do to get more sales today? Or what can I do to get my team to have more appointments or get them more leads or get them more sales on the board for our business today? If that's the case, you are going to love today's session, which is all about how to get appointments, leads, sessions, and sales today. And we've got a real simple method to be able to talk about. Now, let's talk about the problem. For most businesses, many times we find ourselves caught up and ask yourself, how often do we find ourselves in busyness versus actually doing business, right? And helping clients and serving clients at the highest level. And even worse is a lot of times we're misled by a lot of different experts, aren't we? A lot of experts say, that some of the keys to success is to go find that magic button, like a webinar. Now, we love webinars, but here's a simple truth and a misunderstanding about webinars. We find in our models that we get 70% or more results following the webinar than the actual webinar itself. Now, do you use a webinar? Yes, but so many people stop where the actual real momentum actually picks up. It's misleading, right? Or other experts that are teaching, go out there and hammer social media, at all these different platforms and do hundreds and hundreds. I mean, the list goes on and on. You probably know what I'm talking about too, right? So the key question is it okay if I actually show you how to avoid busyness, right? Overwhelm, burnout, and actually bad days in your business, and how you can apply a simple approach to go get clients today. Now, before we do, let me ask you this. What business are you in? Now, Dan Kennedy, who's one of the smartest business and marketing minds in the world, he says, you're not in the business you think you're in. You're actually in the marketing of the business you think you're in. I even want to go another level deep with this, because what business are you really in, right? Serving what? Serving clients. And to be able to do that, what does that take? It takes a focus on relationships, right? You can be a transactional business, which is very short-lived, short-term, and so on, or you can be a relationship-oriented business, which is long-term focused, right? So as you look at relationships or the business that you're in, there's two methods that you develop relationships, right? Really simple. You've got offline, face-to-face, and you've got online, right? Which can lead to face-to-face. And at the end of the day, there's two steps to be able to nurture and culture these relationships and turn them into clients with you, right? And it's real simple. Here are the two simple steps for your team to get more leads, to get more sales, to get more appointments today. So number one is peak interest. Now I'm going to talk about what peak interest means, and I'm going to give you some samples. I'm going to give you things that we're using with our clients right now, right? And next, step number two is a call to action, right? So you peak interest and then you have a call to action. In other words, you simply put out invitations. Like invitations are like planting seeds. You want to become like Johnny and Mary invitation seed, right? Johnny and Mary apple seed, planting a lot of seeds of invitations, or others would call this making offers. So let's dive into it real quick. Now, there are all kinds of ways that we all cultivate relationships if we really think, and there's probably more than this too, but I think I've got 11 different, methods here, right? So chances are if you're like me, you go to certain types of meetings, in your industry, in your niches, in your service, right? Or you have meetings with people that you've connected with, right? You have these conversations, or maybe you and your team are running ads, and there's all kinds of places you can run ads, from magazines to Facebook to Google to YouTube to LinkedIn and more, right? Then there's email that you can be working with. There's Instagram, there's LinkedIn as far as social media posting. There's Facebook, there's joint ventures or strategic alliances that you might set up. Or you might go to a networking event, right? You might actually do public speaking. You might speak at a commerce event or a larger type form in public speaking. And so on, right? The other one that I have come to love is podcasting, right? It's a great way to interview and create a vacuum of learning and also relationship building, right? I've been doing, my first version was all the way back in like 2001 with a radio show that we had on NBC that ultimately grew to 5 days a week. We ran this show for many years, interviewed thousands of experts all over the world, some of your mentors, some of my mentors, and a whole lot more. And then that's now translated into a podcast or a few different things that we do. But like for you, what are the different ways that you're cultivating relationships? And ideally, as you're cultivating these relationships, you're not focused on the human doing things all the time. You're focused on being a human being, right? Cultivating, nurturing relationships, long-term relationship value versus transactional value. People don't cancel relationships in most cases. They cancel transactions, right? When it becomes transactional. Let's think about that. Like what would happen for you if you shifted the game to be focused on more of a relationship business if you're not, right? Or what could you do to make it even better? So I'm going to give you some direct samples. These are some samples that we pulled. These are small sampling of samples as well. These aren't all of them, but I want to give you some usable things that you might want to even get a camera out. You might want to take photos of these, and or depending on how you're involved with us, we actually will give you these scripts. So the number one is peak interest, right? So a way to peak interest is simply to ask a question. Now, my first business all the way back in 1992 when we got started, I've been at this a while, very first business, we used a peak interest question to generate potential clients. And here's what we said. So our niche at that time were health club. I don't know if you know people or you go to health clubs or whatever, but not the franchise versions, these big giant clubs, super clubs, but we focused on mom and pop kind of clubs, independently owned and operated, right? So we'd go to a potential health club owner. If it were you, we'd come to you and go, hey, John, if we could actually show you a way to be able to add a couple hundred members in your club over the next 30 to 60 days, and it'd be no upfront cost to you whatsoever. And our company will take the risk and we'll run direct mail, we'll run radio, we'll run TV for you. And then when we generate a profit, we'll split the profits. Would you be open to that? And that was our peak interest question, right? Or peak interest concept that we went in with. So what is your peak interest concept? So I've got a couple of samples here for you to be thinking of, and you can start filling in the blanks and brainstorming and like, what is your amazing peak interest question? Like when I went on a radio show, like one of the biggest transformations in my business career, I went on a radio show on NBC before we started our show, and I went on and I met the host beforehand. I interviewed, he's a really sharp guy, and I challenged him live on the air. He didn't know I was going to do this, and I said, his name was John actually, and I said, hey John, if I were to coach you and you were to follow our methods, and I guaranteed you that you'd increase your income by over $100,000 in the next 12 months, would you take me up on working with me in my coaching? And he said live on the air, yes, I will, Dan. There's two benefits to this. One, who wouldn't want to increase their income by 100 grand or more? Number two, if you don't do it, I'm going to shred you on radio, right? It's a pretty bold move, right? But when you believe in what you do, you might take a bold risk. And I did. I took a bold calculated risk, but it was a peak interest question that I asked him in that moment. He said yes. Now, truth be told, let me speak to the elephant in the room. You might be wondering, well, did you hit the goal? We didn't hit the goal. Right? We didn't hit the goal. We didn't help him reach increase by over $100,000 in a year. We actually helped him increase his income by over $100,000 in 4 months and 2 days, right? And then that led to us creating this apprentice type show on NBC. This is back in like 2000, early 2000s. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of joy, and it really was the springboard to so many amazing things. But it started with what? It started with this peak interest concept, the peak interest question. So again, I share this story not to go, ooh, look at me. I go, what is your peak interest question that you can lead with that makes it irresistible? It's an irresistible invitation to a degree, right? Now, you don't want to be overly zealous because think about this. Do people like to be sold or feel sold? No. But people like to buy things. So this is conversational. It's cool. It's not hypey. It's not douchey. It's just a cool conversational way to ask somebody to identify and have them self-select if they're interested. So here are a couple examples. Do you know anyone that struggles or has a problem with, right? Fill in the blank, right? And again, I've got some very specific examples, but this is the start of the brainstorm from. Do you struggle or have a problem with, hey, we're putting together a program or service and it helps, name of the industry, who want to eliminate the problem, get more, right? Big breakthroughs in the desire, right? Are you interested in learning more? Or if you're interested in learning more, do this. right? Send, reply and I'll send you the detail. And again, I've got some very specific samples, but this is your template right here to be able to look at, okay, let's start brainstorming on this and really focus on what we can do to come up with your version. Today, like right now, I want you to do this ideally right now. Grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, and be doing this. And if not, then come back to this and really take an advantage of doing this exercise. So let's go to the next part of this, right? Which is about making an offer. So as you look at making an offer here, right? Here's what it is. This comes from a guy named John Carlton, one of the smartest marketing minds ever, right? And he makes things so simple, and I love this approach. Here's what it is. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's what to do next, right? That's his 3-step approach when you make an offer. Here's what it is. Here's what it'll do for you. Here's what to do next. So this is an adaptation of this. Here's what it is. What it does for you is, right? What that gives you is, and what that means for you is. So think about your product or service right here, right now, right? That pick one. Don't pick 5. Don't pick 3. Don't pick 2. Pick one. What is one product or service that creates a transformation, an outcome, a breakthrough, or an amazing experience for your potential clients, right? We call this BOAT, breakthrough, outcome, transformation, experience. You might want to write that down. And then whatever that product is, okay, here's what it is. So name it. What it does for you is, right? Think of the benefit and the outcome, the transformation experience. What that gives you is, think of maybe an emotional impact that it has. Does it give someone a greater sense of freedom, a greater sense of peace, a greater sense of clarity, there's so many different emotional meanings there. And what that means for you is, and again, you could go deeper emotionally, right? But think through this. So if you're looking for a solution without the problem, then here's the action to take if you want it, right? Really, really simple. So peak interest, then here's what it is. If you're looking for a way to be able to do this without the problem, then here's the action to take, right? Again, I encourage you, apply this simple exercise. Now, let's go to the next part of this to help walk you through it. So let me go to examples, which are here as well. So we've got examples, and I'm just moving this sheet up, and then I'll make it a little bigger so you can see it. So here are a couple real life examples from clients we've worked with and how we help them structure this. Hey, I'm putting together, name of the offer, for a few select people. Are you interested in the big outcome? Reply yes and let me know. How simple is that? Can you do that? Is that pretty simple, right? Examples, I'm putting together a small event for experts. Are you interested in learning new strategies that our clients are using to get $4 for every dollar with paid ads? Reply yes and let me know. Thanks, Dave. Right? Could you put together some kind of a simple message? Is that conversational? Is that relationship driven? It's not hypey. It's not over. All you're looking to do is pique interest, make the offer, and get them to raise their hand, and then here's what to do next, right? By the way, how great is it? You don't need a funnel. You don't need a sales page. You don't need complicated setups, merchants, all this stuff set up ahead of time. You can just start casting your net here, right? And making peak interest, and then make the invitation. Here's a couple other ones. I'm putting together a new class. Are you interested in a fun, proven way to drop body fat, slim down? Reply yes and let me know. Sally, right? See, if you're in a fitness industry or some type of health oriented, could you put together a simple message like that and send it out? Hey, I'm putting together a few coaches for a private event. Are you interested in learning some of the new strategies we're using to help our clients get over 20 new clients a month? Reply and let me know, B. Again, very conversational, right? Could you put this in? What is your message, right? What is your message? Ideally, you're coming up with a few of your own. Hi, we're putting together a back to school campaign for our previous clients as a way to say thank you. You know, you might call these alumni, by the way. Are you interested in getting a 50% discount on our heating audit and home safety inspection? The info. Glenn. Again, how good is that, right? How simple is that? So when they reply yes, send them a follow-up message to engage in a conversation, not try to make the sale yet, right? So many of us, I know I've done, I remember years ago in my early days, I was very assertive. Some would say overly aggressive, overly zealous. You know, people definitely felt like they were being sold. That's a damaging confession. Like truth is, that's the approach I took. It was like being a shark, right? You don't want to be a shark, right? You want to be a fisherman. And when you go fishing, what do? You throw out your line, you catch a nibble on the hook. You don't dive in the water and go, here, fishy, 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 fishy. What do? You tug the line back just a little bit, And then you let the fish run, and you let the fish run, and let the fish run, and let the fish run, and let it run itself out. Then what happens is you pull slack on the line, and then you start reeling in. It's relationship driven, right? Not transaction. You're trying to just catch the fish a second. No, it's working together. It's collaborative, right? This is a collaborative approach, right? So engage in a conversation with a few responses to get to know them better. Right now, by the way, let me speak to the other. You might go, oh, well, Dan, I've been trying to automate my bag. This is too much work. Well, don't let automation and technology get in the way of you actually doing business or your team doing business or making real money, right? This works. It will work for you, right? Now, after you feel comfortable with the engagement, let them know you can help them only if you think you can. This is really, really, really critical. Now, by the way, there's an expert who some of this is modeled from and adapted from our 20-some years of doing this in our different ways. His name is Dean Jackson, and Dean Jackson is one of the smartest marketing minds in the world, and he has a concept called the 9-word email approach, and in some ways this is adapted from and with that, complementing it extremely well, right? So if you've ever gone through some of his stuff, there might be some resemblance here. So let me show you a little bit, right? So as an example, it seems we can help you. I've got some tools and resources I can share with you about how to solve the problem, right? How do you look on such and such a day and time, right? Or send them a link to your schedule. Based on what you've shared with me, I feel we can help you, Steve, right? Again, it's just you're in conversation, you're making an invitation and then making the next invitation, right? Making the next offer. It's really, really simple, isn't it? Could you do this? Can you do this now? Right? Could you get your team doing this, sending out these kind of simple, elegant type of messages? So let's go, oops, sorry about that. Let's go to the next page, right? Make an offer. Here's what it is, what it does for you is, what it gives you is, and what that means for you is if you're looking for X, right, which is the solution, without the pain, right, then here's the action. That is a great way. If you're doing a podcast, by the way, use this amazing, simple methodology to drive people to like a list building tool, or some people call this the lead magnet or whatever the case might be. This simple thing. When you make the offer on your podcast or anywhere, here's what it is, here's what it does, here's what it gives for you. If you're looking for X to avoid the pain, here's the action you want to take. That's a really powerful, simple way. So here's a couple examples for you that you can see in action. So we host an on-demand training called the 3-step method to pivot and prosper in turbulent times. What it does is it gives you implementation in the playbook we use to grow a 20 million per year education, coaching, and publishing business. That gives you the ability to get a steady flow of daily leads, sales, and profits. And that means you have greater freedom, growth, and clarity. So you can have a bigger impact, reach, and contribution. If you're looking for a proven game plan and getting help with implementation and doing it with less stress and overwhelm, then go to championbusinessblueprint.com. Right? That's a pretty simple one. One of our other clients that we work with, here's an example of theirs. You know, we have an event called the Service Business Edge. What that does for you is give you a $30 million playbook and implementation plan, and that gives you a proven blueprint to create wealth, freedom, and market domination. And that means you have greater certainty, confidence, and clarity. If you're looking for a proven blueprint without the typical mistakes most service business owners make, then go to servicebusinessedge.com right now. Right? Again, this can be used in so many. This can be used in print. This can be used if you're on a podcast interview. It could be used in a networking meeting. But it's very cool. It's very simple. It's very conversational. Right? You're not overselling. You're just making an invitation, planting seeds. Be Johnny and Mary Appleseed. Johnny and Mary Appleseed. So ideally, that helps you. Now, you might say, well, what do I do next? So let me just give you a bonus. If you get a yes, like they want to work with you, then what do you do next? You may want to book a session, but basically book a time so you can talk about how you can help them, right? So you might ask, are you looking for help? Simple enough, isn't it? Yes. Okay, great. Seems like we could help. So if you're looking to the big promise and the outcome without the pain, how about we see if we can help? You know, you might say something like our typical fee for a day or our event is, however, what I'd be willing to do is give you time, right? Name the type of session at X cost to you. So as an example, in our session, you'll get confidence, certainty, clarity, focus to, the outcome that you want, reduce and eliminate. So you want to have reduce, eliminate the pain, the problem, the dangers, the challenges that are keeping you from, right, getting results. And finally, you'll feel the benefits to get the outcome so that you can have even greater sense of peace, clarity, confidence, and a whole lot more. Now, again, I'm going through this fairly quickly, but I encourage you, hopefully you take pictures of these. You're part of our program and you're going to use these checklists and then create your versions. Like we've done millions of dollars with these simple approach, millions for not only us, but for our clients and a whole lot more. This template, this checklist works. It will work for you if you put it in place. So don't risk not using it. So let me give you a direct example. Are you looking for help? Yes. Okay, great. Seems like we could help. If you're looking to double your sales and profits with less stress, it seems this might be a fit. Our typical rate is $10,000 a day with our private clients. However, I'd be willing to do a 30-minute clarity session at no cost. In our session, you'll get greater clarity, connect the dots on how to get a steady flow of lead sales and profits, get unstuck, see the mindset and stop the lows, plateaus, and inconsistency, or worse, all the revenues being dependent on you, right? Pretty simple. Finally, we'll give you a new action plan with more clarity, confidence to double your business with less stress so you can have a bigger impact. If you'd like to take advantage of our limited time, no cost clarity session, go to breakthroughstrategycall.com. I wrote that one for us so you could actually see the example. How simple is that? One of our clients is in the stem cell industry, right? Works with, are you looking for help to get patients in your clinic? That's the peak interest question. When they respond, okay, seems like we might be able, if you're looking to get more high value patients and add 5 to 6 figure months stream of revenue, this could be a fit for you. Our typical rate for our event is $7,500. What I'd be willing to do is our 30-minute patient infusion strategy session at no cost. In the session, you'll get clear. So again, you can read this on your own, but again, you see the formula. If you'd like to take advantage of our limited no-cost session, then go ahead and book a time. Right? So this would be where you'd insert your URL. Again, we've covered a lot in a really, really short period of time. So ideally, you're getting something here. Think about this. How would this impact you if you got this in place with you and your team and you modeled the checklist, you modeled the templates here, right? You created your versions of this in-house. You created a system and a process to use this, right? You could be sending out these messages once a week to your prospects or subscribers on your list who are not clients. You could send these to your current clients and invite them to go deeper with something else that you're on. There's so many applications. I get really, really excited because what is the impact? This gives you the ability to make more sales, get more appointments, right? It certainly opens the door to create more qualified leads and candidates immediately without going through sophisticated funnels and burnout or busyness, right? And instead you're doing business by piquing interest and then making an invitation, planting those seeds. So real quick, I just want to summarize what we've covered in a short period of time. Really giving you 2 powerful steps to get more appointments, leads, sales, and sessions. Identified what business you're in. We gave you 2 approaches. We gave you the 2-step approach to be able to pique interest, right? And then also make an invitation. Others might call this making an offer, right? Really, really simple. Now, this is typically a little bit longer. Let me speak to the elephant. This is typically a little bit longer. And at the end of the day, is it worth it if you got the templates, the checklists that you can literally copy and model? I mean, if you can copy and paste, you can do that. Now, let me also speak to another. Don't copy and paste and then go share this with others and say it's yours, right? This is what we have done for years. And this is something we've given our clients to do as well. And we want to give to you, right? So I encourage you, apply it, right? Model it, right? Use it. And then what I'd love to hear more than anything is like, what are the results from you? Like how much more confidence does this give you to be able to give your team a system to be able to follow it? It's really actually pretty simple, and stay out of overwhelm, stay out of burnout, stay out of busyness, and actually be doing business, right? Big difference between doing business and being in busyness, right? So that's part of the theme. So here are the action steps. We call this Operation Reach Out, right? Start with piquing your potential clients and or your current clients for something else. Pique their interest. Number 2, invite them to move forward, right? Make an invitation, make an offer, invite them to move forward. Really simple. Couple tools for this. Let me just share a couple tools. What do you need? You need potential candidates. In all those 11 different places, you probably have access to those contacts, right? And relationships. Again, treated as relationship capital, not as transactional. That's really critical as well. Pique their interest, make the invitation as it unfolds. Now, you might say to yourself, Dan, this is amazing. This is a lot, but can I get more help for my business? I mean, if you're looking for help, right? And people say, well, what do you guys do? Real simple. We help companies implement to get more clients and grow with less stress, right? So if you're looking for a solution like that and maybe struggling, hit a plateau, any of that sort of stuff, then real simple, let's set up a follow-up conversation to talk about your business more in detail, like what's working. We call these what's not working. We call these the decelerators. What is working, accelerators, or what could be working, exponential accelerators, right, from our experience. And if we've got a fit, we'll talk about some options with us. If not, you'll walk away with strategies to help you get clarity, confidence, and direction. Oh, by the way, I just did the thing I mentioned. So go to breakthroughstrategycall.com if you do want help. And I hope you've enjoyed the session. Most importantly, take action with it. Apply it. And then I'd love you to send over what happened. Like, what have been the results for you? So there you have it. Enjoy your day. Make it a great week. Seize the day. And we'll see you again in another segment coming soon.